So traveling and holiday is completely different things, right? So I think it's very much about enriching and then seeing the world, meeting new people, living as the local there. Pada saat saya pergi itu kebanyakan kan tinggal di tempat lokal atau bagaimana. Jadi itu menurut saya hal-hal yang bikin kita hangat gitu di dalam semacamnya. I think I never really have, I never really have an expectation when I go to a place. I don't really have kayak itinerary yang maybe about the place itself, like the cities is kind of like scheduled. But when I go, I kind of like get lost in a sense because I started as a street photographer about when I was 15 years old. So I'm like, I love going to the street, meeting people and everything. So that kind of like habit that I have is something that I kind of like carry through when I travel as well. So I feel safe somehow whenever I'm walking with my camera. Either safe or it's actually something to kind of like bridge me in between people and the place. Because when you walk around anywhere, mau di India, Bali, wherever it is, even in Ladakh, it's to me is an access to connect in between one person to another, in between one person to a space, one person to even a material, a building, anything. So I think it's all about connecting to the soul of the places that you're traveling to, regardless even when you go for a seminar in Hong Kong, let's say. When you come empty, then you can be filled by the place. But when you come with some sort of oh, I want to see this and that, then you are kind of like sometimes you didn't see what's in front of you, and rather you are thinking about, I want to go to the temple, but what about the temple here, something like that. So I think I came mostly empty. I don't really have, unless I have a schedule to go for a workshop, seminar, everything. But other than that, I kind of came with an empty film, empty memory card, just go and then walk. I remember 2015, I started to go pretty deep into understanding my birth element. So at the time, I'm like, why is it that I am full of like fire and anger and everything, So I asked my dad. So my dad have a book that's already telling you like the kwamnya, ya ini anak feng shui-nya kayak gimana gitu ya. Every kids, including Lalita, everybody have it. Anyway, then I kind of like find deeper about my element, and apparently kan I was born 89, so it was an earth snake year. Ular tanah. Jadi gue pikir, gue api, terus gue kalau sama tanah, jadinya apa? Keramik. So I'm like, gosh, maybe I should like visit ceramics, because our family, my ancestor has been selling ceramics since the 1930s. So I'm like, maybe this is something that I can trace back. And then at the time, what appears was Gaia. Gaia itu one of probably I would not say the first, ada seniornya, but the Ubud itu at the time they were already kind of like just started or already like starting for like about a couple of years. So I checked, they have classes. And the class is called The Spirit of Fire. First time going to Ubud all by myself, even working with clay, and then meeting ceramic people is a new world for me. It's not a new world. They are very chill people, I will call. Maybe they're very centered. Ya, kebanyakan itu kali apa centering pottery. So I think how I find that kind of like connection was first, of course, to me again, it has to have a meaning while you're traveling. In a sense, what are you searching for? With no expectation for sure, but if there's something that you're looking for in yourself, then that to me makes the first tick on why I'm doing this traveling. Then I want to talk now about the fire. And I find that, hey, you know what? Actually, it's not so bad to really be close with your own elements. And sometimes when we look at ourselves, we want to find what is it to fit fire. Like, you need to be close to metal and everything. But I realized actually, you know what, in that very peak of the moment of firing itself, which goes to like 1,200 degrees Celsius, which is like it can kill you, it's like burns you so bad. But when you got so close with fire, you will see there's this immense amount of peace in fire. So fire is actually not killing, it actually can be as cool as water. Definitely will be photography first. And I also like to write, still with pen and paper. I think it's like still the best way to just get, your emotions out. My way of remembering things, since I'm pretty much of like my visual memory is pretty vivid. So I like to archive the process of the work with my photography. And by that, the kind of like style of photography that I am very much drawn to is, we call it archival photography. So when you look at the work that I have, let's say in my ceramic work, you really see all of these processes, including the activities, including the teaching and everything. It was all documented with my pocket camera. So when I started, I love shooting in film, but that was about 10 years ago, I always walk with my film camera. I process my own film and I shoot actually in black and white. This is probably what's interesting. From that moment, I realized that black and white was actually the way that you can capture the soul of the work, and then you actually focuses on form, you focuses on levels of gradients, of contrast, of highlights. Then by that, it helps me to understand colors, because colors is so confusing. I mean, until today, when I work with color, it's rather very peculiar. When I was traveling to Leh, one of the things that strikes me was the mountain sceneries. This is probably the closest I've been to Everest. So I've always kind of like, I myself meditate, and then when I meditate, I always have this kind of like image of a mountain. I don't know why. To me, mountain kind of like gives that kind of like feelings of, I mean, everybody wants to have an achievement in life, and then you always kind of like everybody's peak of like how you see your peak of life, like your purpose or your goal is different. So I realized that everybody's height is different, and that kind of like inspires me of how I'm taking my photograph, of how I'm like doing my painting. Very moment when I took the photo, of course I was not thinking about this, but it's just like, again, like I told you, when you're connected to that environment, you're connected to the nature, and then you kind of like absorb that completely in you. This view just kind of like maybe makes its own place in my mind and in my heart. Okay. So when I travel, I like to collect stones. So this is coming back from like when I was like 5 years old. Back then I remember I was like going to the States with my parents, and then we went to Yosemite Falls, and then I was like picking up rocks and everything. So at the time when I traveled to Ladakh, I found this stone. I think it was at one of the roadsides. At the time we were like stuck in the road. At the time there's this, basically in Ladakh, the roadside is very prone to like salju jatuh. So at the time we were at the point where that we kind of like, we don't know if we're gonna make it or not. So while waiting, I kind of like found this stone, and I was like holding on like very close to it. And I think stone sometimes, it's so, it reminisces me when I was like young, when your parents tell you, Metta, kalau sakit perut pegangan sama batu aja, bisa dibilang gitu kan. So maybe it's kind of like the way that I kind of like comfort myself, find a standard or something. But yeah, this stone is just like been, actually in the studio, it's actually one of the stone that I put on our prayer table. So yeah, this is the one that I kept until today. One of my top ones is definitely Thailand, Bangkok itself. I've only been there, I think, twice, but I'm lucky enough to really like have a lot of friends there. And I mean, I love First of all, the temples is amazing. Like I told you, like I always go to the temple. I find like I'm completely connected with the soul there. And the food, definitely, and the people. And somehow, I always told myself, I think for once, I must have been a Thai. That's it. I just felt like it just belong, you know, there. It felt like so, you know, the street and everything feels like, you know, you go to Yawarat, the Chinatown, it's amazing there. I felt like, oh my God, this is home. I can live here. So I found myself there. It's really good. Bangkok. Just follow your guts. Have courage. You know, look up and then be positive about traveling itself. I mean, we can talk about budget, we can talk about itinerary and everything, but to me, again, it's all about being able to find. I mean, you get lost to find yourself. It's not you get lost to be more lost, right? So at the end of the day, be lost, be open, and then see how life can really how traveling can feeds you. And that's about that. Yeah, that's it.